So when I had an announcement speech in the City Park of Republic, there was about 120 people that showed up. There's a few more of you here tonight, right? Yeah, definitely. And I talked about the issues that this state is facing. Shortcomings from our government. One of the biggest ones, it still is now, but it's not all over the news because of other things, which I'll talk about here in a few minutes. But the so-called homeless crisis, right? It's all over the news. People living on the street, feces, dirty needles, tent camps everywhere, and crime. But I didn't call it a homeless crisis. I worked on the streets. I dealt with people that were living on the streets that were in addiction and mental health problems, and I called it like I saw it. It's not all about homes. It's an addiction and a mental health crisis that we're facing. When I was a narcotics detective, we had a zero tolerance policy. If you have residue of heroin in a baggie, that's a felony in this state. We would arrest them, they would go to jail, they would see a judge, and the judge would give them a choice. They can go to treatment or they can go to prison. And most of them chose treatment. And a funny thing started happening. People would get their head clear, they'd get off the drugs, they'd get a job, they'd get their kids back, and they'd come back and thank me for saving their life. But you can go to places like King County and the police will not arrest you for having 7 or 8 grams of heroin on you, which is a lot of heroin. They won't arrest you because the prosecutors won't prosecute. The left says that it's not compassionate to put an addict in jail. Exactly the opposite is true. It takes tough love. It takes a boot in the butt, right? To get these people need help. You cannot just wake up one day and say, I'm not going to do heroin anymore. It doesn't work like that. It takes tough love. And them ignoring this problem is why we have this big influx of people living on the street. Policies like that attract people from all over this country to come here where they can continue to use. But they're stuck in this cycle of addiction. It's going to take tough love to get them out of it. And I will bring that to this state. I toured a treatment facility down in southwestern Washington, and they used to take mostly state funding. But with the state funding comes the state rules, and they had to be a zero threshold entry program, which means people could come and go as they please, very lax rules, but they weren't getting a very high success rate. In fact, it was single-digit success rate. And the board of directors got together and they said, this is not working. We need to do something else. They set up this group, they set up this company down in Longview to help the community. But it wasn't working. So they got together, they completely changed their rules, they quit taking mostly state funding. Now they're mostly funded by local businesses and donors in the community. And they changed the rules. They now have a locked door, they've got security cameras, security guards, mental health counselors, drug addiction counselors, a daycare for family units when mom and dad are going to counseling or going out to look for a job. And they have gone from single-digit success rate to 78% success. I want to bring that model all across Washington State so we can quit wasting taxpayer dollars on programs that are not working. Are you with me? Right now, the state spends millions and millions of taxpayer dollars supposedly fighting this problem. But if we don't focus on the core issue, it's not going to get fixed. And I believe in fixing things instead of wasting taxpayer money. The same thing happens when you go about doing things like Jay Inslee wants to do and spend millions and millions, if not billions, of taxpayer dollars and build homes for all the people living on the street. Right? And it's going to do the same thing. If we built a home for everyone living on the street and tomorrow we wake up and there's nobody else on the street, right? They all got a home. People are going to start dying from overdoses in those homes. They're going to turn into the next slums, and it's going to attract people from all over the country to come to places like Washington, where they can come here and say, hey, I don't have a home, build me one too. It will be a perpetual building program that will cost the taxpayers billions. We need to focus on the core issue, which is mental health and addiction, and the rest of them, it will be a tiny fraction that we can easily help. Are you with me on that? We have to come back from this disastrous policy that's been going on. We cannot keep these people stuck in this cycle of addiction and keep wasting billions of taxpayer dollars. We pay far too much in taxes as it is, right? And they keep going up. The state budget has doubled in Jay Inslee's term. We used to spend about $30 billion per budget cycle, and now it's almost $60 billion. That's not money that the state makes a product and sells, makes a profit. That's money that comes right out of our pockets, right out of our businesses to fund the state government. And I don't know about you, but increasing the budget from 30 billion to 60 billion, are our roads any better? No! Are the services we get from the government any better? No! No. It's absolutely ridiculous. At the end of every fiscal year, all of the departments have money left over, right? If anybody's worked for the government, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. When there's money left over at the end of the fiscal year, the department heads go on a spending spree. They want to spend all that money so that they get that on the next budget cycle plus an increase, right? Yep. They just spend it. They buy things we don't need. They buy things that we don't want. But they want to get that money spent, otherwise they don't get it in the next budget cycle. And we need to go to a zero-based budget where every department head has to justify what they need the money for ahead of time.